my name is Dana Golden. Welcome to the next lecture in the Natural Resources section of the course. Happy you're joining us for bidding in electricity markets. So, they're not just one type of electricity market. There are many electricity markets. There's the day-ahead market, where market participants bid to produce generation hourly, 1 day ahead. So it's 24 hours from now, and then you're bidding at the hourly intervals. And then there's the real-time market where market participants bid to balance the grid based on deviations from expectations. There's a reserve capacity market where market participants paid to be present to prevent blackouts. And we'll talk a lot about capacity markets at the end of the series. This is actually the last lecture, is a really deep dive on capacity markets. Then there's the ancillary services markets where market participants provide additional services to the market to ensure grid stability. Again, the grid is very complex and hard to manage, so you have to have these odd things like voltage support and like inertia that you pay for. And then you have renewable energy certificates, which are the dominant way carbon markets work and help separate properties of electricity from the physical good and allows you as a company or as a government to buy renewable energy and say, this renewable energy is coming to me, even though really electricity goes where it wants and flows throughout the grid. So purpose of the day-ahead market is allows market participants to schedule energy 1 day in advance based on demand forecast. Participants submit bids and offers for the next 24 hours. The ISO then matches supply and demand at each hour to determine the market clearing price or locational marginal price. Cleared bids become binding for the next day, ensuring reliability. Locational marginal price is used to consider transmission constraints and loss, the cost of loss, and then separate prices for each zone represent localized demand and generation constraints. Really, the prices, though some ISOs mainly release them by the zone level, they're always provided at the bus level. There's a different price at each substation. So these provide transparency and certainty in scheduling and facilitate better planning and reliability. In terms of real-time markets, these allow for the adjustment of generation and demand in near real time to ensure reliability and address deviations from the day ahead in both generation, because renewables have uncertain generation, and in terms of demand, because sometimes you don't know what load and demand are going to be a day ahead. And in terms of real-time prices are calculated every 5 to 15 minutes, depending on the market. The ISO continuously monitors system balance and just dispatch. In terms of pricing, real-time LMPs reflect immediate supply and demand and transmission conditions. High volatility in prices is due to the immediacy of the market. This helps address unforeseen demand and supply changes and supports system reliability by balancing actual generation with real-time load. So here is an example of how this works, how the settlement works in the physical electricity market. So you have price on this axis, price on the y-axis, megawatts, quantity of electricity on the x-axis. And then you have green, it represents resources that are clearing the market. So in the day-ahead market, you have a higher expected demand than you have actually realized. Day-ahead quantity is here. So you've procured more demand than you thought, or more demand than you needed. Real-time market is here. So all these resources clear the day-ahead market at a price of 252, and they're paid just to be available, but aren't necessarily dispatched. And then these resources clear the real-time market at a price of 49 if they want to bid more in at that market. So again, these resources clear the real-time market, and these resources clear the day-ahead market. So it's based on, and then the price in the real-time is right here, 49. Price in the day-ahead is right here, 52, and it's based on the marginal cost of the last economically dispatched generator. So this is the supply stack. This should look familiar to you, because this is what we did in commodity markets with a look at the cost curve method for supply of commodities. The reserve capacity market ensures there's enough backup power generation available to maintain grid reliability during peak demand or unexpected outages. Generators commit to keeping additional capacity available as a reserve, which can be quickly dispatch in the case of demand surges or supply shortfalls. Payments are made to generators for maintaining this reserve capacity, even if not ultimately used. So types of reserve capacity is spinning reserve, which is online, ready to use, capacity that can respond instantaneously to grid disruptions. Non-spinning reserve, offline capacity, can be brought online quickly if needed. And then supplemental reserves, additional reserves beyond this. Sometimes it's a little bit slower and takes time to get up to speed, so it's sometimes less valuable. Important reserve capacity markets, they provide financial incentives for generators to ensure grid reliability and avoid blackouts. They help support integration of renewables by providing backup to compensate for variability. And they help grid operators maintain a stable and balanced system even during unexpected events. So reserve capacity markets we'll focus on a lot in the last lecture of the class. Prevent what's called the missing money problem, which is the idea that if you're one of these generators, if you're a high-priced generator, you're rarely ever going to get dispatch, and if you are dispatched, you're going to be dispatched at your marginal cost. It's probably only going to maintain your variable cost. So how do you deal with your fixed cost? Well, the answer is you do with the reserve capacity market. Another participant in electricity markets is demand response. We talked about this a little bit during our commodity market derivatives discussion on microstructure and regulation. Demand response is a grid management strategy where consumers adjust or reduce electricity usage during peak times in response to price signals or incentive. Basically, the idea is that a 1 megawatt decrease in demand is equal to a 1 megawatt increase in supply. So we're going to compensate decreases in demand from large actors as if they increase supply. We're also seeing this some out in Arizona and some places with virtual power plants where we're encouraging retail level consumers with rate incentives to turn down thermostats in the winter when there's too much load, and then turn off thermostats in the summer when there's too much heating or too much cooling, in the idea that this will decrease the load and will help prevent shortages. So we're using using retail consumers as a dispersed resource. That's one of the most interesting things about demand response, whether it's consumer level and retail level, or whether it's industrial, is that this is one of the few resources in the electricity grid that's distributed and allows you to dispatch the resource exactly where it's needed. So demand response, when demand is high or supply is constrained, wholesale prices rise, telling demand response participants to lower consumption. You normally need a certain level of scarcity or a certain price to be hit for these incentives to kick in. Consumers, or whether it be at the retail or industrial level, receive financial compensation or reduced rates for reducing usage during demand response events. There's an aggregator who pools reductions from multiple participants, usually offering a significant decrease in demand to the grid operator. When we talked about Ketchup Caddy a few lectures ago, this is what they were doing, but they were lying. But there are people who are doing this for real, where they're reaching out to a lot of different companies and individuals and saying, we'd love to help you decrease your electricity prices and also help everyone else. So work with us and we'll help you get good demand response rates, and we'll take care of demand response for you. So types of demand response, you have price-based demand response, where customers adjust uses in response to dynamic pricing, such as time of use rates or real-time pricing. You have incentive-based demand response, where participants are compensated for agreeing to reduce load during high demand periods or emergencies. So price-based demand response is based on high prices, and consumers are rewarded based on how they reduce from normal. And then you have incentive-based demand response, where consumers cut off their electricity use when there's scarcity. So demand response acts as a flexible resource and also a distributed resource, so it reduces the need for costly peak generation and can work within the congested nature of the system. It enhances grid reliability by balancing supply and demand, reducing stress on infrastructure, and supports renewable energy generation by allowing there to be variability and allowing for the grid to respond quickly. Demand response can be very quick if you have some automation here. So one thing I'll mention is that One of the flaws of demand response markets, and something we're working on right now, is it relies on you to understand how you're reducing power from your peak. So it relies on you to reduce power, but it's not always clear what your peak is. So normally you're asked to provide some sample dates that demonstrate how much power you're normally using. And some businesses have incentives to, and some businesses have overestimated and used too much power then. So during a real demand response event, it will look like they're cutting back when actually they're just using normal power. So in terms of ancillary services markets, these support the reliable operation of the electric grid by ensuring balance, stability, and continuity of power. So key types, of course, is frequency regulation, which maintains the grid frequency. The grid in the United States has to be at 60 hertz. There are other places where that's different, particularly Europe has a different grid frequency. But we have to maintain 60 hertz. If the grid isn't at 60 hertz, if it's spinning too fast or spinning too low, then everything blows out of proportion and you will end up with a blackout. Spinning reserves, these provide immediate backup generation from online reserves and can ramp up quickly in the case of sudden demand or outages. So this is even faster than the real-time market. Non-spinning reserves, these are additional backup that can be brought online quickly. And then finally, voltage support. A friend of mine recently informed me that FERC is potentially considering removing voltage support payments, and voltage support controls voltage levels across the grid, ensuring efficient power delivery and system reliability. So you have to maintain the same frequency, you have to maintain the same voltage, and right now there's a market that helps provide both those things. And ancillary service markets are very important. They compensate resources providing essential services to maintain grid reliability and stability, and this has become increasingly essential with renewable integration. This provides a mechanism for various generation storage technologies to participate in maintaining system reliability, and it really helps prevent blackouts and other disruptions by ensuring the grid can respond to imbalances and unexpected events. These are often separate markets, so these are additional payments some types of resources can have depending on how valuable they are. Battery tech is usually very valuable. Demand response is often seen as very valuable, but not always, to ancillary services markets. Solar is harder because it doesn't produce any inertia, but wind also, as a renewable, is also able to produce inertia and participate in the ancillary services market a lot. So why is it important to maintain grid frequency? Grid frequency is typically set at a standard level in the United States, 60 hertz, to ensure reliable operation of the electrical grid. The importance of frequency stability: you protect your equipment. Electrical equipment is designed to operate at a specific frequency. If there's a deviation, there'll be overheating, there'll be malfunction, things will break. Stability: frequency fluctuations lead to signal imbalances between demand and supply and can cause cascading failures. You have a blackout if this isn't taken care of, if it gets too far out of the band. FERC and NERC get very concerned if you have frequency deviations. Consumer safety and reliability: stable frequency ensures continuous, reliable power and minimizes the risk of outages. And renewables have presented a unique challenge here because it's asynchronous generation. Solar contributes little or no inertia. Wind contributes a lot of inertia, but isn't able to be dispatched whenever you want to, and this increases the risk of frequency instability. And ancillary services and fast-flowing resources are critical to compensate for these fluctuations. Ancillary service markets are only going to become more important. Inertia refers to the resistance of synchronous generators, like large turbines, to rapid changes in frequency. It's crucial for wind stability to help absorb and counteract sudden frequency fluctuations caused by imbalance in supply and demand. So inertia is basically the idea that if you have a turbine that's running, it can keep frequency up. So you pay some people, if frequency gets too low or too high, you pay some people to turn on or off their turbines and use the spinning to create inertia to keep the grid at the right frequency. So sources of inertia include synchronous generators like coal, gas, nuclear, and hydropower plants. Wind can also produce inertia, but it's not dispatchable. And then you have rotating mass generators that naturally resist changes in rotational speed. Rotating mass generators.
And then with increasing renewable energy penetration, there's less natural inertia, which creates problems. So now we have the ancillary service market for inertia services, where now as you have more renewables, you need more payment for inertia. So ancillary services markets exist to maintain grid stability by compensating generators to provide inertia. And these markets can pay for services such as synchronous resources, where generators are paid to stay online, ready to respond to frequency changes, ready to be there if they need more spinning. And fast frequency response, where you have faster response frequencies like batteries. Batteries can turn on or off very quickly to provide what's called synthetic inertia, which we'll talk about in the next slide. And then payment structure, generators are compensated based on capacity reserved to provide inertia, often on a per megawatt basis. Payments encourage certain types of generators, usually traditional and battery, to stay online even when demand is low. Actually, batteries are not paid to stay online. They're paid to be present to provide inertia. Synthetic inertia refers to the ability of non-synchronous generation resources like wind turbines and batteries to minimize the stabling effect of traditional inertia. So this is the idea that now, even if we're not going to be able to dispatch a natural gas generator or coal generator to very quickly provide inertia, we can provide inertia in other ways, like by using a battery to very quickly spin a turbine. So how does it work? It uses advanced controls and power electronics to rapidly adjust output in response to frequency changes. And it can provide fast frequency response, very quick response to change the inertia by injecting and absorbing power within milliseconds. The benefits of synthetic inertia: it helps maintain frequency stability as the grid incorporates more renewable energy sources. It enables more wind and solar panels to come online and support grid stability in ways that was previously limited to traditional resources, and it provides grid operators more flexibility and resilience, especially in areas with high penetration. So we're going to stop here, and next time we're going to talk about optimal bidding. Thank you. Have a great day.